Hey beautiful people, my name is Shelly and this is my channel Shell Space. So it's been a really long time since I recorded, probably about a month, and I'm feeling really rusty right now, so you have to forgive me if I'm a bit out of sorts. Today I'm going to be talking about my spring TBR. I try not to do too many TBRs because I am such a mood reader that I don't want to say that I'm going to read something and then I'm not actually going to read it like I did in February. I said I was going to read all these things and I probably read maybe about 50% of them. I mean, that's still pretty good. I mean, 50% is not bad, but it's not great. I'm sorry if the light keeps changing. The sun is like in and out of clouds today, so that's why. So I thought that doing a seasonal TBR would be best, and since I consider spring to be March, April, May, I'm going to do a spring. I know technically that's not correct. I know it's supposed to be like April, May, June, but June is summer here. I mean, like, that's when we put our shorts on. That's when it gets super hot. So to me, that's summer. Anyways, so I'm going to do a March, April, May TBR. I have a huge pile here, like a little bit too ambitious, but all of these books I'm really excited to read. So without further ado say, let's get started. So the first one on my TBR has been on my TBR for probably a year, maybe. I don't know. And that is The Wall of Storms by Ken Liu. Like I said, I've had this on my TBR for the longest time, but as you can see, I've actually already started it. I'm at the second chapter right now, and I am confused as all hell. I have no idea what's going on. I did read the first book, but I vaguely remember the characters, so yeah, I have no idea who these people are or what's going on. I remember like what happened in the first book, The Grace of Kings. But yeah, so I'm starting fresh, confused, reading it really slow because there's a lot of information, a lot of characters to digest. I am currently reading this, so I know that I'm going to read it. And hopefully I'll actually finish it this time because it's the second time I've actually started it. But I'm super excited to jump into this world because honestly, everybody talks about how this is their favorite series. They love the series. It's like their number one. It jumped from like their number one, top their list, all that stuff. I want to top my list. I want to find it in a book that I want to be obsessed about. So I am happy to jump into this book for sure. So the next one on my list, I don't actually own a physical copy of, and that is Of Darkness and Light by Ryan Cahill. I was supposed to do a buddy read with this, but life got in the way, as it does, and we had to kind of like put that on the back burner for now, but I'm keeping it on my TBR, ready to go when we are both ready to get going for that buddy read. So yeah, so that is definitely going to be on my spring TBR. Another one that I don't own yet is The Book That Broke the World by Mark Lawrence. This is the continuation of the Book That Wouldn't Burn that I read last year that absolutely like stole my heart. I can't say much about it, but honestly, I loved the book. I know a lot of people kind of were hesitant about it. They didn't really like it, or it just didn't like mix with them, and that's fine. But for me, it was just like the perfect blend of like weird sci fantasy and a little bit of darkness and a little bit of a romance and like all sorts of things that I love. So that's why it works so well for me. So I'm really excited. I pre-ordered it, so hopefully that will come in. When is this going to be released? April 9th. So I will be having that in my hot hands the beginning of April. Another one on my list that I don't own a physical copy of, and that is The Deer and the Dragon by Piper C.J. And this comes out May 7th. I follow Piper on TikTok. She's funny. I love her. So I saw that she was endorsing her new book, and she has another book series that I have not read yet, but I kind of heard mixed feelings about it. But I'm very curious about this book. I'm not sure if this is an urban fantasy, but it has paranormal elements. Obviously, it's got the Fae involved because she's really into Fae lore. It's a romance, and I believe it's about a main character that can see angels and demons. I'm all for, you know, seeing the unseen, so I'm really excited I pre-ordered that as well. That will be coming in the beginning of May. So now I'm going to tackle this big pile you cannot see. So I'll start with the small ones first because they're going to be the ones that I want to put in between all the big ones. And that is, the first one is The Elder Race by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I don't know much about this book. I know it's a sci fantasy with aliens, I believe, and check, check, check. For me, I love aliens, I love sci-fi fantasy, and I think there's an ancient civilization, which is also a big, huge check. So it's a short book, so I'm keeping this on in like the background for when I want to read something short between these big, huge books that I'm reading. The next one is Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. I've heard like nothing but amazing things about this book. I don't really know much about it besides there's like giant birds called rocks, and I think she's a trainer of them. But again, I've heard nothing but praise about it. I do have the unpopular opinion of not loving the Greenbone saga, but this definitely seems like something that I will thoroughly enjoy, so I'm really excited to jump into this one. So a part of like my 2024 goal is to read more female authors. So I have a lot of female, it's actually a mix now that I'm looking at this, but I have a lot of female authors, especially new to me female authors. So I'm really heavily focusing on that this year. The next book I'm going to talk about is actually not a new author to me, but it is The Darkwater Daughter by M.H. Long. I've read the first book of her other series, which is Hall of Smoke. And those books are cool. It's like more Viking-esque inspired, but this book is more nautical. And I believe it's about a character that can control storms and weather. And I think it's, enemies to lovers. Anyways, I've heard a lot of great things about this book. It's been on my TBRs probably since it came out last spring. So yeah, I want to read it, especially since the sequel is coming out very soon, some point this spring. I'll put it down below if I can remember. I'm excited to start the series, and honestly, it just seems like something that's completely up my alley. Another book series that I want to start, I know I've done a really bad job of like, continuing series and finishing out series, but I'm doing a really good job of reading my physical TBRs, even though that means that I bought new books. And this one is no exception to the rule. And this is The Green Rider by Kristen Britton. And oh, can we talk about how beautiful this broken binding edition is? Like I've always been a horse girly, like especially unicorns and Pegasus, but oh my God, it's just so beautiful. And if I open it up, inside, I can't remember what these called. It's absolutely just like, it's like a beautiful wallpaper, old school wallpaper. And then the illustration on the naked hardcover, beautiful, almost like Renaissance kind of artwork. And I'm obsessed. So obviously I put this on my list to read this spring. And sorry, I'm just putting it away. And from what I know, I don't really know much about this series. I know it's an older series and it's like an ongoing series, like it's still going. And I believe the writer, Kristen Britton, actually is a park ranger. So she's kind of like basing this on like real experience, which I'm all for. So I'm definitely excited to pick up this book and to see what it's about. All right, so this is another book that has been on my TBR for quite some time. And this is The Wolf of Oren-yarn by K.S. Veloso. I've actually read this book, but it's been such a long time that this will be a reread, and I want to continue on with the series. I did listen to the audiobook the first time, and maybe that was just the case that the audiobook just didn't work for me. So I'm going to read this eyes only at some point this spring. Okay, so from what I remember, this is like an Asian-inspired world, and we are following a princess or something like that is basically fallen down from grace, and the man she's married has basically took off on her, and I believe took her son, and now she's kind of left with like nothing, but she's like, well, that. She's a very like aggressive, angry woman who just won't take no for an answer and just basically claws her way back up to the top to get what she believes is hers. So from what I remember about this book, it's very lush. There's a lot of detail about food. So if you like food, there's tons of detail about food, and you will be hungry like reading this. So yeah, I'm excited to reread this and jump back into this world. Changing gears a little bit, I want to continue on with The Expanse. This is a Nemesis game. I believe this is the 5th in the series. I read book 4. I'm totally blanking on the name. I read book 4 in January, and it was an okay read, but I'm really keen on finishing the series out this year because I do want to see how the authors ended it as opposed to how the series ended, because I wasn't a big fan. It wasn't a bad ending, it was just like a meh ending, So I'm curious to see how the authors actually ended the book series. So I want to finish this series pretty soon, so this is probably a higher priority on the list than some of the newer series because, you know, I gotta finish series. I've been starting series and not finishing series, so I gotta finish some series, so this one is on the list. The next book is also another reread, and that is The 12 Kings in Shere-Kai. I was like, I feel like I was in another dimension because I always thought it was the 12 Kings of Shere-Kai, but it's in Shere-Kai. I seriously feel like I was living like a glitch in the Matrix. I don't know. Anyways, I read this book like 2 or 3 years ago, and it was an okay book, but I'm still finding myself thinking about it. So I feel like I want to reread it because it's been such a long time that I really don't remember it. So I actually own majority of the books, so I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna reread it, and hopefully I will like it better the second time around. So this one is a desert setting book, as you can probably tell from the cover. So I'm probably gonna lean towards reading it when it starts to get really warm, because right now it's still kind of cold outside. So I want to read it, or maybe I'll read it soon and just give me like warm vibes. I don't know. The next book is also another reread, and that is Gods of Men by Barbara Kloss. I read this 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember, whenever it came out. And this is a self-pub book, and I really enjoyed it. But again, it's been such a long time that I really don't remember what is happening. I own the entire trilogy, and I just want to get back to it. It kind of reminded me a lot of the City of Brass series. Not necessarily the story, but more like the feel, the tone of the book. So if you're interested in that, and I believe it's in a world where magic is forbidden, but the main character finds out that she actually has magical abilities, and it kind of presented itself in a very bad way and ended up taking somebody's life that she loves, and she's basically now on the run. And she's a princess. Backtrack. She's a princess, so now she's on the run. Years pass, she's like living in the outskirts of society in a really bad area, and she, I believe, meets a soldier who hunts people by magic. Anyways, it's enemies to lovers, and I really enjoyed it. So I am excited to jump back into it and start reading again. The next book I want to talk about, I bought it because it's a cover by, and 2, it is the same author of The Bridge Kingdom, and that is Danielle L. Jensen's Fate Inked in Blood. And oh my god, can we talk? Can you see those sprayed edges? And the inside is white. Unfortunately, my copy has a stupid thing here, but it's embossed, it's beautiful, and this front cover is just absolutely stunning. And I have no idea what it's about, but I believe it's about a shield maiden blessed by the gods. So yeah, I'm excited to read this. Honestly, it's just so pretty. Okay, so the next book on my list, I've been kind of waiting for, because there was a little bit of a revision on it, and that is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I have heard that she's visiting and redoing her entire series, and so I picked up the re-edited, the reimagined, I don't know how you say it. Honestly, this cover is just absolutely stunning. I think this is an urban fantasy. Don't quote me, I really don't know what it's about because I try to surprise myself, but I believe it's an urban fantasy, and I know that the magic system is inspired by migraines, which is weird, but I have migraines. I've got really bad migraines, and so I think Samantha Shannon also has really bad migraines. So I thought that was really interesting to have an entire magic system based on migraines. So like I said, I don't know what this story is about, but it's covered by, and I know that she's re-releasing all of the books with new covers and new editions. I'm very excited to see what this book is actually about. The next book on my list is another sequel, and this is The Fractured Dark by Megan E. O'Keefe. And the first book in the series is called The Blight and Stars, which made it to my top 10 of the year for 2023, and I loved it so much. This is a science fiction, kind of space opera, kind of horror, kind of romance. Got a lot of everything in it. As you can see, I kind of already started it, but I put it down because I wanted to wait for the third book in the series to come out because I wanted to binge them. And the third book, I believe, comes out some point this spring. I'll have to put it down below because I can't remember the date. So I'm probably now going to read this at the end of March and then continue on with the next book in the series. I think it's a trilogy, so the conclusion of the trilogy in April. So yeah, I can't say much about this book, but yes, if you like science fiction, space operas with enemies to lovers and kind of a creepy vibe, I highly recommend this series. Well, the first book for sure. I haven't read the whole series, but the first book, you know what I mean. So I will be picking this up towards the end of March. And the last book on my list is a big question mark because I've been kind of pushing it back because I've been waiting for the release of the sequel. But it hasn't been announced yet, or if it has, I don't know. I might put it down below if it has. But that is The Will of the Many by James Islington. I keep wanting to say Islington. It's Islington. I don't know anything about this book. I just know that everybody's been talking about it and everybody's been loving it and obsessing with it, and it's been on everybody's like top 10 of the year. And I know it's kind of Roman inspired, and I think there's a school setting. I honestly try not to listen to too many reviews except for the fact that people are like, I love this book, blah blah blah. So as I was editing, I realized that my mic cut out for some reason for the last 3 minutes of the video, so that's why it was cut so abruptly. But it was the end, so I guess I don't have to refilm a whole bunch, so that's a whew. Anyways, you can always find me on Instagram and Goodreads. I'm more active on Goodreads. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a big thumbs up and consider subscribing, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.